So it's so great that we get a half an hour to hear from you and some of the things that...
Tell them that you didn't want my questions.
So when Noosheen asked me to do this, she said, well, what are the questions you're going to ask? And I say, I wanted this to be spontaneous. So then a day later, I got a set of questions that I'm supposed to ask her.
I trust you.
You know, the first question I want to ask you, because having worked closely with you as PARSA was getting started, you're such an accomplished professional. You have such a wonderful, loving family. You have your own family foundation that you work on. And yet for 4 years now, you've put so much time, energy, love, resources into working together with this community. And it's been hard. You know, as people have talked about today, the challenge of doing this kind of community philanthropy is, working with a set of CEOs is enormously challenging. What drives you? Why do you do it?
Sense of duty, number one. That's pretty much it, sense of duty. I feel like a lot of people that have come before us have done a lot, both as Americans. I think people who built the United States. Yeah, I certainly started from, obviously an immigrant coming here before the hostage crisis, but you kind of, you come in and after a while, after some events that the relationship between U.S. and Iran, you kind of get concerned, but you sort of try to find your identity, and I think I have, every day I appreciate more what it means to be an American citizen. The idea of citizenship, whether it's America or anywhere else, is not just a passport you carry around that gets you into countries without visas, and what a daily job it is to be a citizen. So I think later on I have reached the awareness to become aware of what citizenship means, and I want to do my work as a citizen of an immigrant who's come here essentially in appreciation for all the people who have come before. But my Iranian duty, unfortunately, just doesn't leave me, and I feel, if I see an Iranian child, with big eyes and the eyelashes, my duty just goes up. I don't know why. It just, I feel a very strong sense of I must bring whatever I've learned to my community, and I think part of it also is the opportunity. I think there's that old story about this shoe company sending a sales guy to a new area to open up an office or assess the opportunity. And the sales guy writes back or whatever, says, no one's wearing shoes, abandoned project. And the other sales guy sent another sales guy who says, no one's wearing shoes, great opportunity, send shoes. So I think I keep seeing that. I keep seeing, the great opportunity. So I see just people that with enormous amount of potential, obviously, in building businesses and everything else. And it's really wonderful to try to harness some of that energy for public good and to put out goodwill to the people of the world, to not only as an antithesis to some of the Iranian leaders, but also just for its own sake.
So with that opportunity and with that sense of duty, earlier I called Gail a star. I think you've been like a comet. And there's been like and this whole organization has been. And I see a sense of urgency in the work. Where does that come from?
Well, some of it is personal. I can't do anything halfway. So when I'm doing it, I've got to go all the way. I've got to learn everything about it, and I have to do it professionally. I also don't think I have a lot of time. Usually I go into a phase, into something, I put everything into it, and then I leave it. And when I leave it, I usually don't go back to it. And that's been a trend in my life many times over. So it just so happens that PARSA is that thing that I want to give a lot of time to. What drives it, again, is the opportunity. I see a lot of interest, and I seriously think you just have to look at the examples of people that have done it before, I love what Talat Hassan said. I think that's how we all started. We've done this before. We haven't built nonprofits before, we built companies. Yeah, this is easy, we can do this. And when you get into it, you realize, wow, the common purpose is not necessarily there. Not amongst the people who started, but overall, in a company, you have a very clear common purpose. It's just increase the revenues, build the customers, etc. So this is a little different ball of wax. So part, what drives it is the opportunity, part is the duty, and part of it's like, essentially trying to apply everything we've learned to this for now.
So what are those things that you've learned over 4 years of doing this? What are some of this, there's clearly a difference between the community organizing and building a company, but what are some of the specific lessons
The differences between a company and a nonprofit?
Well, the lessons that you've learned in building a community foundation now.
Well, if I bring the Iranian sort of examples to it, some people object to hearing sort of the Iranian nuances because unfortunately they extrapolate it to mean that Iranians have some kind of genetic, they say, well, Iranians are not genetically opposed to, building a community. So, but of course you never mean that. But they are, we have our own cultural nuances, and I think sometimes one of the challenges that I've learned a lot of good things. First of all, I've progressed as a person, as a human being myself, by seeing people like you, cleaning houses of the elderly, a GSB graduate. That just changes my world completely. I think that's been really rewarding for me. But I've also learned a lot of tactical things about how to run foundations and how to quickly learn from everybody, how to set this up. Like, for example, you could wait to get your 501c letter for 2 years, or there's a trick on how to put it on fast track. So I've learned all those tricks. Not all those tricks, all the tricks so far on our path. So those have been good. And then there's a lot of things we've learned that we haven't been able to put to action yet. For example, this fundraising from foundations. We've learned that you can't just raise money for Iranians. Nobody will give that. You've got to raise it for a larger community. We've learned that we have to give services to other people, like they're giving free medical services, that sort of thing. I've learned that we probably have poverty. We just don't know it. We haven't acknowledged it, and we haven't done anything about it. So I've learned a lot of things we haven't been able to execute yet. And some of the difficult things I've learned that you can't win when you compete with yourself. So I think that we can have competition in the community, and competition can be great, but it can also be a waste of money, a waste of resources, and it can be confusing to donors. So I think we have a great challenge to be strategic. How do we all get together, all the people that want to do well, all those groups, get together and just chart it out? We don't have enough money. I'd say if we had $1 billion, go at it, do the model, market model. Everybody run out there, get your donors as fast as you can. And some will fail, some will succeed, that's cool. But we don't have that. We don't have $1 billion. And my dream would be to raise at least $200 million to be able to fund some Iranian studies, serious centers of Iranian studies. And I don't mean in every university in America. I mean a few centers, 5 or 6 big centers that have many professors, not one guy. I'm sort of against the whole one guy model and everything, pretty much.
Except marriage.
Except marriage. To build bilingual schools, to essentially reclaim a lot of the Persian art that's now being renamed Islamic art around the world because people pay for Islamic art, they don't pay for Persian art. I mean, we have to write a lot more checks than we're writing, a lot more. So, it's been a very interesting learning experience.
So I watched you today as different people were speaking, and you were listening carefully and taking notes, and I see your notes kind of right there. What are the one or two, you've been doing this for a long time, but what were the one or two things you heard today